Awesome. Hello, hello, everyone. We are on day 3 of 21 Days of Fear. Yes. So today is all about the fear of fear. And the question that gets asked as we start to move towards moving beyond fear, healing fear, is who will I be without this fear? So one thing that's so important is that fear is actually afraid of itself, because fear only knows fear, right? So when we start to take steps towards healing and integrating our fears, what ends up happening is that pattern that we've been in, this fight or flight experience that we've been stuck in, that part of us fears who will become without the fear. So the very fear that is holding us back is afraid of who you'll be without it, because it has programmed itself in your body, in your nervous system, in your neurology, to believe that you need that fear in order to survive. So when you start to think about healing, joining programs that are going to support you in transferring this fear and transitioning it out of your life and shifting the patterns, this fear will come up and say, you need me. Who are you going to be without me? Because what happens when we are stuck in this constant state of fight or flight, our bodies cannot properly heal. So when we're in constant fight or flight, our nervous system is jacked up and our brain becomes hypersensitive. So when we're experiencing trauma and things like that in our lives, what happens is that over and over, as we continue to release all of this adrenaline and cortisol in our nervous system gets more and more out of balance, our brain becomes more and more sensitive, which means that you no longer need something extreme in your environment to trigger the fight or flight mode. It could be something so simple as the sound, like something creaking out in nature, and you hear that creak and all of a sudden your body goes into this massive sympathetic dominance fight or flight mode. So as we become more and more sensitized from that trauma and fear not being healed and integrated, we become more and more sensitive, and then our nervous system becomes more and more dysfunctional. And as our nervous system grows more and more dysfunctional, it starts to compromise other body systems, like our vagus system becomes compromised. And if our vagus system is compromised, then the most important system in our body becomes compromised, and that's our gut, our digestive system. When our digestive system is compromised, we can no longer create the neurotransmitters that are needed in order for our body to heal and self-regulate. So this is why, and there are a lot of studies done around people who experience trauma. The earlier the trauma, the more health challenges that people are experiencing. So when this happens is we end up getting this trauma, creates these fear systems in our body, puts our body into fight or flight, then our vagus system stops operating properly, and when our vagus system is no longer operating properly, our gut biome is no longer able to be activated. Our gut can only do the healing that it is here for, the releasing of the neurotransmitters that send out all of the signals that, hey, it's time to rest and restore. Our gut can only be in that healing mode when our body is in a parasympathetic rest and restore mode. So if we're constantly living on the edge in fight or flight, our gut biome is not able to do what it's designed to do, which is to release all these neurotransmitters that send out the healing messages. So what we end up doing is we end up continuing to live through our reptilian brain, through our trauma instead of living through the infinite intelligence of our gut. And until we bring our vagus system back online, that is sending those signals into the gut, we're not going to be able to get into a parasympathetic mode. So what ends up happening is now we're in this space where our gut is not able to do the healing work that it is designed to do, right? The gut is the healing factory. It's where all the healing takes place for our entire body. And if our gut is unable to do the healing work because our nervous system is so dysfunctional from the fear and the traumas, then our gut is not able to heal, and then we become magnets for a whole host of parasites and of bacterial infections and of colds and flus and sicknesses that build up over time, because when our body is weakened, our gut is weakened, and it doesn't enter into parasympathetic rest and restore mode because we're constantly living in fight or flight, we end up being more susceptible to long-term health consequences. And this has been wildly studied, that people who experience trauma, especially the earlier experienced, have way higher chances, like 80% and higher chances of having long-term health consequences, because we get stuck in this sympathetic dominant mode. And when we're in sympathetic dominance, our gut cannot be in its healing mode. And then we just magnetize all of these viruses, pathogens, parasites, and our body gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So not only does this process of becoming fearlessly expressed, you know, I was having a conversation with my partner last night who's out of town, and we were texting, and I was just sharing with him how excited I am about everything that is coming together, that is coming to fruition right now. And he was saying, you know, Ahomna, like, people no longer being in fear is really a side effect of what you're creating, right? They're no longer being fear and stress and anxiety. That's actually a side effect. The real effects is that people are having their nervous system be rebalanced, and their vagus system is coming back online, and then their gut is going to be able to function properly again so that they can actually get into healing mode. So the fear, the anxiety, the stress, that's all like a bonus to no longer be operating from those modes. What's going to happen for our health and for our sense of purpose and alignment. One of the women who joined messaged me last night and said, I'm recognizing this fear that's coming up around, I don't know who I'm going to be without this fear, because I've always known my life through fear. I've always known my existence through this fight or flight mode. And I 100% resonated with her, because that was my truth as well, where I only knew fight or flight inside of my body. I only knew this like warrior dynamic that was always on guard, that was creating a whole host of health challenges that have continuously manifested themselves because of this imbalance. And when I was in that phase that I'm guiding people through now, that same thought came up for me too. It was, well, how do I exist in this world without this fear? Who will I be without being this warrior, being in this fight or flight mode? And that fear that comes up in that moment is to stop us. Fear has a self-preservation mechanism, because fear is afraid of itself. It only knows fear. It is fear. And it's terrified of dying. And fear's death is you no longer needing it, is your nervous system coming back into balance, so that when you do shift into sympathetic modes, because that will happen, that you can immediately bring yourself back into balance. So what happens is, in this process of becoming fearlessly expressed, we don't want to stop fear. There are natural fears that are very important for us to experience. Say, I shared the story about when I was living in Chicago, and I was working in restaurants still, and I was coming home from the restaurant. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I was riding the subway. And I'm riding the subway with one of my girlfriends at the time, and we're just chatting. We get off at the same stop, we say goodbye, and we part ways. And as we part ways, I locked eyes with this man, and my body immediately went into sympathetic mode and said, "This man will attack you, get into a cab." And I normally would just walk home from the train stop because it was a 5-minute walk. And my body just took over. There wasn't a thought. My body immediately stepped to the curb, hailed a cab, and got in. And when I got home, I texted my friend and I said, "Hey, are you home okay?" And she said, "Did you see what happened?" And I'm like, "No, I got into a cab." She's like, "Well, thank goodness you got into a cab because this woman was attacked." And I said, "Did the man who attacked her, was he wearing?" And I described the man that I saw, and she said, "Yes, how did you know?" And I said, "Because I locked eyes with this man, and I felt that this man was going to attack me. He was going to rob me if I didn't get into this cab." That is what our fear system is designed for. It's designed to have that instinctive knowing in that moment if something is dangerous for our lives. And that comes from when we used to live with nature, and there's mountain lions and grizzly bears and tigers and all of these various different creatures that are predators to the human species, that are way more powerful as far as physiologically speaking goes. If you get in a rumble and tumble with a grizzly bear who's not happy that you're there, chances are your life is going to be taken. So that fear mechanism right there is something that is imperative for our body. Yet when we have these experiences and we get stuck in that mode, we don't know how to get ourselves out of feeling that way, and our body gets programmed into the space where it stays on that edge. It stays in that fight or flight, and it doesn't get into a space where it can heal. And that's when all of the health consequences start to show up. All of the constant anxiety and stress and worry, lack, fear, pain, suffering, dis-ease manifest. If our nervous system is not imbalanced, we cannot heal our body. We can try, we can do all the things, and something is going to keep circling back, because our nervous system must be brought back into harmony, and the programs in our brain that are operating on these memories of the trauma, they must be shifted. These programs must be rewired. We have the capacity to control our brain, which is something that we might not think about because we're so used to thinking, okay, our brain is just doing its thing, I don't have to worry about it. But what if your brain is running patterns and programs that are keeping you in disease, that are keeping you in fear, that are keeping you in scarcity? Wouldn't it be incredibly beneficial for your life, your health, your ability to thrive, to know how to go in and actually control your brain to change those patterns? And that if you don't, it is proven that you have a far greater chance of long-term health dis-ease. Right? This stuff is so important right now for our healing, to not be looking at the symptoms, to go in and address the systems that are dysfunctional and to bring them back into balance and harmony, right? So that we can effectively create change and experience what it means to be fearlessly expressed. So if you're in that space where fear has been in the driver's seat for many, many years in your life, and you're wondering, I'm not actually sure if I'm going to know how to survive without this fear. Trust me when I say that is a very normal fear mechanism to stop you from actually going forth and doing what is going to support you to heal that fear. And the being that you are here to become, once that fear is no longer in the driver's seat and your systems have been brought back into balance and you shift out of reptilian brain dominance and you shift into the infinite wisdom of your gut, of your solar plexus biome, of all of the neurotransmitters that exist in this brain, you will come to know and meet your true essence. You will, I remember the day when and I'm feeling a little emotional about this because it was such a profound moment when I got to meet who I was without the fight or flight, without the fear that someone was going to attack me, that I had to be on guard, that I had to be constantly shielding my life because of all of the trauma that I experienced. Meeting that essence within myself that was no longer reliant on that is where all of the gifts started to emerge through me, where all of the information for who I am and why I'm here emerged. All of it was hiding behind the fear. And opening that box, unwrapping the gift beneath the trauma, reveals why we're here. It reveals our magic and our medicine and our gifts. And what wants to come through now is just, I encourage you and support you, and I'm so confident in your ability to come and know who you are without this fear. So if that fear is stopping you from moving forward into what you know is going to support you in changing your life, in healing, and bringing balance and harmony back to your biome, your body, so that your external experience can no longer be one of stress and chaos, take the leap, reach out, get the support, and bridge those connections, because who you're going to become when you're no longer in fight or flight, that person is so miraculous. And it's worth the effort to find out and to meet yourself. So that is what I'm going to end this day 3, 21 days of fear. And if you resonate and want to learn more about Fearlessly Expressed, send me a message. Sending you all so much appreciation for your willingness to receive this message and to reach out and take those steps necessary to meet your true self. Have a beautiful day or evening wherever you're at in the world. Bye.